woke up in the dead of night, drenched in a cold sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was shrouded in darkness, except for the faint glow of the moon filtering through the curtains. As I lay there trying to calm my racing thoughts, an unsettling feeling washed over me. It felt as though I was being watched, as if an unseen presence lingered in the shadows, observing my every move. I dismissed the feeling as a result of a nightmare and turned on the bedside lamp, hoping to dispel the unease. Yet the light seemed feeble, unable to penetrate the thick veil of darkness that enveloped the room. My gaze wandered around, searching for any sign of intrusion, but found none. I convinced myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, and closed my eyes, desperate for sleep to reclaim me. Days turned into nights, and the feeling of being watched persisted. It gnawed at my sanity like a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind outside sent shivers down my spine. I began to question my own sanity, wondering if I was slowly losing grip on reality. One evening, as darkness fell, I became acutely aware of a presence that seemed to be lurking just beyond the edge of my vision. It was a subtle yet undeniable sensation, like a breath on the back of my neck. Fear gripped my heart, but curiosity pushed me forward. I embarked on a quest to uncover the truth. I installed security cameras around my home, hoping to capture evidence of the unseen stalker. Night after night, I stayed awake, glued to the live feed, searching for any sign of movement. But the figure remained elusive, always just out of reach. It was as if the stalker had mastered the art of remaining hidden, leaving no trace of their presence. With each passing day, my obsession grew. I became consumed by a desperate need to unmask the faceless tormentor. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by relentless surveillance. Every shadow took on a sinister form. Every sound echoed with malicious intent. One night, as I sat in the dim glow of the surveillance screens, a flicker of movement caught my eye. My heart skipped a beat as I zoomed in on the image. There it was, a faint silhouette, lurking at the edge of the frame. The figure was tall and slender, their features obscured by the darkness. Driven by fear and a need for self-preservation, I fortified my home. Deadbolts were reinforced, windows were barred, and security alarms were installed. But deep down, I knew it was futile. This stalker, this unseen terror, was no mere mortal. It was an entity that existed beyond the realm of comprehension. The nights turned into a never-ending cycle of terror. The stalker grew bolder, making their presence known not just in the shadows, but in every corner of my mind. They whispered in my dreams, taunted me with their unseen presence, and left me in a perpetual state of paranoia. I became a prisoner in my own home, trapped in a twisted game of cat and mouse. The stalker reveled in my fear, relishing in the power they held over me. I was their plaything, a puppet dancing to their whims. The lines between reality and hallucination blurred as I spiraled deeper into the abyss of terror. And then, one fateful night, the stalker revealed themselves. I awoke to find them standing at the foot of my bed, their eyes gleaming with malevolence. Their face was shrouded in darkness, a void that devoured all light. A scream tore from my throat, but no sound escaped my lips. I was paralyzed, trapped in a nightmare from which I couldn't awaken. The stalker moved closer, their presence suffocating. I could feel their icy breath on my skin, their touch like 1,000 spiders crawling across my body. They whispered words of torment, promising an eternity of suffering. And just as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished, leaving me broken and shattered. To this day, I live in fear, haunted by the memory of the unseen stalker. They remain a specter in the recesses of my mind, a constant reminder that evil exists beyond the realm of comprehension. I am forever scarred, forever changed by the chilling tale of the unseen stalker who forever roams the shadows of my existence. I never thought I would find myself sharing a true horror story, but the events that unfolded during a series of unsettling stalking experiences have left me shaken to my core. It all began innocently enough, but little did I know the chilling encounters that awaited me. It was a typical evening when I returned home from work, exhausted and ready to unwind. As I entered my house, a strange feeling washed over me, as if something was amiss. Ignoring my instincts, I dismissed it as mere fatigue and proceeded with my evening routine. Days turned into weeks, and the unsettling feeling persisted. Small things began to go missing, only to reappear in odd places. Keys, wallets, and even cherished mementos seemed to have a mind of their own. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me, lurking in the shadows of my own home. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a faint scratching sound coming from the hallway. My heart raced, and I mustered the courage to investigate. As I approached the source of the noise, the scratching grew louder, echoing through the empty house. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob, and with a deep breath, I swung the door open. To my horror, I found nothing but darkness. The scratching had ceased, leaving me with an eerie silence that sent shivers down my spine. I convinced myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. The following night, I decided to set up a security camera in my living room, hoping to catch any evidence of the strange occurrences. As I reviewed the footage the next morning, my blood ran cold. The video showed a shadowy figure moving through the room, its presence unmistakable. I couldn't believe my eyes. Someone had been in my house watching my every move. Fear consumed me, and I contacted the authorities, desperate for answers. They assured me they would increase patrols in the area, but the unsettling incidents continued. Each night, I would hear the scratching, accompanied by whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. The stalker was taunting me, playing a twisted game of cat and mouse. One evening, as I returned home, I noticed a peculiar smell lingering in the air. It was a sickening combination of decay and something far more sinister. My heart raced as I followed the scent, leading me to the basement. With trembling hands, I flicked on the light switch, revealing a horrifying sight. There, in the corner of the room, lay a makeshift bed, surrounded by discarded food wrappers and empty bottles. It was clear that someone had been living in my basement, unbeknownst to me. Panic set in as I realized the stalker had been closer than I ever could have imagined. The police were called once again, and a thorough search of the house was conducted. They found no trace of the stalker, leaving me feeling helpless and vulnerable. The fear of the unknown consumed me, and I couldn't escape the feeling that the stalker was always one step ahead. Days turned into weeks, and the incidents gradually subsided. The scratching ceased, and the whispers faded into silence. But the scars of those unsettling stalking experiences remained etched in my mind. I had become a prisoner in my own home, forever haunted by the memories of that faceless stalker. To this day, I still wonder who was behind those chilling encounters. Was it a deranged stalker, or something far more sinister? The uncertainty lingers, a constant reminder that true horror can lurk in the most unexpected places. So, dear reader, be cautious. Lock your doors, secure your windows, and trust your instincts. For in the darkness, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs, the true horrors of the world may be waiting, ready to invade your life and leave you forever unsettled. I woke up to darkness. The air in my room was heavy, suffocating, as though something sinister lingered in the shadows. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing through the silence. I strained my ears, listening intently, but all I heard was the sound of my own breath, shallow and anxious. Something was wrong. I sat up, my body tense, and scanned the room. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting eerie silhouettes across the furniture. Everything seemed normal, yet an inexplicable sense of dread gnawed at my insides. I shook off the unease, convincing myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But as the days passed, the feeling persisted, growing stronger with each passing hour. I began to notice subtle changes around the house. A chair slightly out of place, a door left ajar. I dismissed them at first, blaming absent-mindedness or the wind. Yet, deep down, I knew there was something more sinister at play. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned, but there was nothing there, a mere flicker in the periphery of my vision. Cold sweat trickled down my spine, and a shiver ran through my body. I knew then that I was not alone. Night after night, I lay in bed, my senses heightened, waiting for the unseen stalker to reveal itself. The darkness became my enemy, the silence a constant reminder of the lurking danger. I installed security cameras, hoping to catch a glimpse of the intruder, but each morning, the footage revealed nothing but empty rooms and empty hallways. My friends and family dismissed my fears, attributing them to stress or an overactive imagination. But I knew the truth. There was someone in my house, someone watching my every move, biding their time. One night as I lay wide awake, a soft creak echoed from the hallway. My heart skipped a beat, and I held my breath, straining to hear. Footsteps approached my room, slow and deliberate. Panic surged through my veins as the doorknob turned, and the door creaked open. I lay frozen, paralyzed with fear, as the unseen stalker entered my room. Shadows danced across their figure, concealing their identity. They moved with an eerie grace, their presence suffocating. I could feel their gaze upon me, piercing through the darkness, studying me. Suddenly, a whispered voice filled the room, sending chills down my spine. It was a voice I couldn't place, distorted and haunting. "You cannot hide," it hissed, the words slithering through the air like venom. Terror consumed me as I realized the true nature of my tormentor. This was no ordinary stalker. It was something otherworldly, something beyond comprehension. I was trapped in a nightmare, a waking horror that defied explanation. Days turned into weeks, and the torment continued. The unseen stalker grew bolder, their presence more palpable. They reveled in my fear, relishing the power they held over me. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a perpetual state of paranoia. I reached out to experts, desperate for a solution. They offered advice, warding rituals, blessings, and charms, but nothing worked. The unseen stalker remained an ever-present specter, haunting my every waking moment. Now, as I write this, I can feel their presence lurking just beyond the page. They watch, they wait, their malevolence growing with each passing day. I am trapped in a nightmare from which there is no escape, a chilling tale of an unseen stalker that will forever haunt me. If you ever find yourself feeling watched, a shiver crawling up your spine, remember my story. For there are forces in this world that defy explanation, lurking in the shadows, working in the shadows, waiting for their moment to strike. And once they have you in their clutches, there is no escape from the horror they bring. I never liked my neighbor, Mr. Jones. He was an old man who lived alone in the house next to mine. He always gave me the creeps with his dirty clothes, unkempt beard, and yellow teeth. He never smiled or said hello, just stared at me with his cold, dead eyes. One night I was home alone, watching TV in the living room. I heard a loud knock on the door. I got up and looked through the peephole. It was Mr. Jones. He had a bloody bandage wrapped around his head and a large knife in his hand. He looked furious. I panicked and ran to the kitchen, where I grabbed a phone and dialed 911. I told the operator that my neighbor was trying to break into my house and that he had a weapon. The operator told me to stay calm and that help was on the way. I heard Mr. Jones banging on the door, shouting obscenities and threats. He said he was going to kill me and make me pay for what I did to him. I had no idea what he was talking about. I had never done anything to him, except avoid him as much as possible. I ran upstairs and locked myself in my bedroom. I pushed a dresser against the door and hid under the bed. I heard Mr. Jones break down the door and enter the house. He was screaming my name, saying he knew where I was and that he was coming for me. I was terrified. I prayed that the police would arrive soon and save me from this madman. I heard him climb the stairs and kick open the doors of the other rooms. He was getting closer and closer to my room. I heard him stop outside my door. He tried to open it, but it was locked. He slammed his knife against the door, making holes in the wood. He said he could smell my fear and that he was going to enjoy cutting me up. I screamed and cried, begging him to leave me alone. I heard sirens outside and hoped that it was the police. I heard Mr. Jones curse and say that he had to finish me off quickly. I heard a loud bang and saw a flash of light. Mr. Jones fell to the floor, blood spilling from his chest. A police officer kicked open the door and pointed his gun at him. He told me to stay where I was and that I was safe. I crawled out from under the bed and ran to the officer. He hugged me and told me that everything was okay. He said that Mr. Jones was dead and that he couldn't hurt me anymore. He said that he was a wanted serial killer who had escaped from a mental hospital and that he had killed several people in the neighborhood. He said that I was lucky to be alive and that I was very brave. He said that he was sorry for what I had gone through and that he would take me to the station where my parents were waiting for me. He said that I would never have to see Mr. Jones again. I thanked him and followed him out of the house. I looked at Mr. Jones' body and felt a shiver of horror. I wondered why he had chosen me as his target and what he had planned to do to me. I wondered what he meant by saying that I had done something to him. I realized that I would never know the answers to these questions, and I was glad.